Now, Israel's foreign ministry has officially informed the United Nations that it is withdrawing from the 1967 agreement recognizing UNRWA. That's the Palestinian Refugee Agency. The move comes as the Israeli parliament passed two bills significantly limiting UNRWA's ability to operate in Israel, Gaza, and the West Bank. We go now live to Washington, D.C. with I-24 News senior correspondent Mike Wagenheim. Mike, good to see you. Israel had warned it would cut ties with UNRWA, so to speak, cut ties with UNRWA for a long time. Now it's happening, and Israel is coming under fire. First, explain to us why this is such an important move for Israel.
Well, there's still a question about whether it will happen or not, and that is a big key right here because we see the notification going out, we hear the rhetoric. However, the laws that were passed earlier on in this week related to UNRWA, related to closing down its facility in Jerusalem, regarding to stripping its employees of diplomatic immunity and benefits, so on and so forth, that has a 90-day window from the time it went into law until the time it's actually implemented. And it does give a period of time possibly for Israel and UNRWA, the United Nations, and even the U.S. with its involvement in this, they've got at stake as well, to reach some agreement about how these laws will be implemented, if they'll be implemented, to what extent they'll be implemented. This is still an open question right now. So it's not as if with the passage of those laws, it's just a cut and dry situation. And that's part of the equation right now. You know, even we heard earlier on in the week a leaked American diplomatic cable talking about the UNRWA situation and all the questions that remain right now. Israel's Minister for Jerusalem Affairs, Meir Perush, posed a possibility that maybe Israel, the Israeli government, will take over UNRWA's operations in the Shuafat camp, which is located in Jerusalem, the only UNRWA facility located in what is currently Israel proper. I asked the spokesman for Secretary General Antonio Guterres of the UN about that situation. He said, hey, you know, if Israel wants to take responsibility for that and take over UNRWA's operations, basically more power to them. But, you know, there's an issue of scale. There's an issue of maintenance. There's 16,000 Palestinian refugees located there. There's a whole water situation. There are schools in there. All those things need to be thought through as well. So right now, everybody kind of working on their own solutions at this point. But it's tough at the top right now because there's no communication between Guterres and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Everything is being done at the lower levels. When things are being done at the lower levels, it's really tough to get approval for big things at the top.
Right, Mike, this is really interesting. The argument, of course, is, I mean, Israel is pushing for it. And if it does happen, the argument, of course, is that there's no real, not one organization to replace UNRWA's work, especially now during wartime. So the pressure is even higher from the UN, from the US, from Europe to keep UNRWA, which gives it a little bit more wiggle room for a solution to happen. It's got, you know, it's dealing with humanitarian aid, education, clinics are set up. How will this impact the reality, if it goes through, for Gazans once the limitations kick in, but also in the West Bank? I mean, these are two very different realities.
Yeah, I actually asked Guterres' spokesman about that on Friday. I said, listen, I looked at the latest stats from UNRWA in terms of humanitarian aid delivery, and over the last 3 months, only 13% of the aid trucks that have gone into Gaza have been handled by UNRWA. Other UN agencies or private agencies or other NGOs have been handling the bulk of those duties. I said, if it's only 13%, how do you deem UNRWA to be indispensable? I was told, well, number one, the last 3 months we've seen a trickle down in aid, so there's a smaller sample size to work with. But the rationale from Guterres' office, from the UN side, is even if UNRWA is not physically taking those trucks to their destination points, they are working on logistics, they're working on coordination, and so you can't look at it from just that perspective. Obviously, the Israeli authorities feel differently. They feel that the World Health Organization, the World Food Program, other UN entities, plus these private sector businesses and other NGOs can take over from UNRWA and remove that baggage that UNRWA has accumulated from their ties to terrorism. Israel says it's essentially, at this point, there's no difference between UNRWA and Hamas. So UNRWA needs to go, and it's time to move forward on another solution for what's left to be done in Gaza.
All right, Mike, I want to shift gears for a moment. You're in Washington.